Welcome to our first episode of Hilariously Forgotten History. This week is the first in our series, How They Got Away With It, the world's greatest charm offensives. Italy, the land of La Dolce Vita, pizza, Prada and popes, has somehow finessed its way through history's bloodiest rap sheet with a wink and a twirl of spaghetti. From ancient Romans nailing dissidents and deities to crosses, to Renaissance popes treating sin like a pay-per-view event, to a fascist dictator who's now mostly remembered for train scheduling, Italy's past is a buffet of atrocities that the world oddly shrugs off. Why does Italy get a pass? Pour yourself an espresso as we dive into this editorial rant exploring how Italy seemingly came, saw, conquered and got away with it. Strap in. It's going to be a wild ride through history, served with heavy sarcasm and a side of dark humour. Let's start at the beginning. Ancient Rome, the lovable overachiever of carnage. These folks conquered half the known world with the enthusiasm of a kid collecting Pokémon, except their idea of catching them all involved slashing, burning and crucifying anything that breathed. The Romans didn't just crucify Jesus. That was practically a Friday for them. They once crucified 6,000 rebel slaves in one go to decorate the Appian Way like some morbid Christmas tree. And yet, when we think of Rome today, we imagine cute gladiator sandals and toga parties, not the original Hunger Games hosted at the Colosseum. The Colosseum, by the way, is basically a giant monument to human slaughter that now serves as a romantic selfie backdrop for tourists. Isn't forgiveness grand? The Roman Empire gave us roads, aqueducts and philosophy, sure. But they also gave us emperors who lit Christians as garden torches and armies that made Carthage so salty, literally sowing salt into its ruins, that nothing would grow there. Ruthless? Absolutely. Forgotten and forgiven? Apparently, yes. Modern Italy happily invites you to holiday in Rome, eat gelato by the Colosseum's blood-stained arches, and toss a coin in Trevi Fountain. No hard feelings, world. After all, what have the Romans ever done for us? Monty Python asked sarcastically. Well, aside from conquest, slavery and crucifixion. But hey, they built some nice arches, so all is forgiven, right? Fast forward a few centuries and the Italian peninsula trades emperors for popes and keeps right on scheming. The Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome, spent medieval and Renaissance times as a kind of holy mafia. Popes wielded power like mafia dons, minus the horse heads, usually. They launched crusades across continents, conducted inquisitions with the subtlety of a chainsaw, and sold indulgences, essentially the get-out-of-hell coupons of the Middle Ages, to finance their opulent lifestyle. Talk about divine hustling. Renaissance popes in particular turned corruption into an art form. Case in point, Pope Alexander VI, aka Rodrigo Borgia. This guy held orgies in the Vatican, had multiple mistresses and illegitimate kids, and cheerfully nepotized his family into power. His reign was so scandalous that historians literally call him the most corrupt pope ever. The church hierarchy also brokered political deals, crowned and excommunicated kings like it was a sport, and amassed enough wealth to make Midas blush. The phrase "power corrupts" could have been coined after a Vatican tour. And yet, miraculously, the Church remains a respected global institution. The world today sees the Pope as a kindly old man in white, spreading peace from his balcony. The Vatican is a tourist must-see. Line up to gawk at Michelangelo's frescoes, conveniently forgetting the centuries of intrigue and torture chambers beneath your feet. Sure, the Church's past is full of power plays and peccadillos, but who cares when you can admire the Sistine Chapel? It's as if wearing holy robes and owning priceless art washes away sins. The Catholic Church has essentially been forgiven by history, or at least given a pass for a millennium of heavy-handed rule. After all, the Pope now waves and smiles. And didn't they give us Christmas and some lovely hymns? Absolve and move on, folks. The 20th century time for Italy to try out fascism, that fun European trend. Benito il Duce Mussolini stomped onto the scene with bombastic speeches, a jawline sharp enough to cut marble, and a dream to resurrect the Roman Empire, complete with fancy new logo, the fasces, and a catchy motto. Under Mussolini's rule, Italy invaded its neighbours, gassed villages in North Africa, and teamed up with Hitler's genocidal regime. They enthusiastically participated in WWII atrocities from Ethiopia to the Balkans. Mussolini's troops used mustard gas, concentration camps, and even bombed Red Cross hospitals in Ethiopia, bringing new meaning to the term overzealous touristic outreach. And yet, when the Axis powers fell, guess who became the universal symbol of evil? Hint, not Mussolini. History books and popular culture have painted Hitler as the uber-villain. Fair enough, he earned it. While Mussolini often comes off as the bumbling sidekick who somehow escapes full blame. Italy swiftly flipped sides in 1943. 1 minute shouting Heil, the next Ciao. And post-war narratives cast Italians largely as victims of Nazism rather than perpetrators. The result of over 1,200 Italians identified for war crimes in World War II, not one faced justice. Let that sink in. Italian fascist officials got to slip quietly into comfortable post-war lives, while Germany had the Nuremberg trials and decades of soul-searching. In modern Italy, you won't see the same stigma around fascist symbols that you do in Germany. Neo-fascist salutes and nostalgias bubble up in Italian politics from time to time without causing the global outrage you'd expect. Heck, Mussolini's granddaughter became an EU parliamentarian on a nostalgia-tinged platform. And most people just shrugged. It's as if wearing a stylish uniform and being Italian is a cloak of historical invisibility. Hollywood films and memes, too, often render Benito as a cartoonish buffoon, the guy who made the trains run on time trademark, rather than a genocidal maniac. The world forgave or forgot a lot of Italy's fascist follies, faster than you can say Mamma Mia. If you thought only the big-name empires did colonial nastiness, think again. Italy had its own colonial happy hour in Ethiopia, Libya, Somalia, Eritrea, where they served up atrocities with a dash of Latin flair. During the 1930s, Mussolini's Italy waged a brutal campaign in Africa, slaughtering civilians using banned chemical weapons and recreating concentration camps in the desert sun. Italian generals in Libya practiced pacification by bombing tribes and incarcerating thousands of locals in camps. In Ethiopia, villages were wiped out in reprisal massacres. This was violence on par with other colonial powers, yet Italy's crimes have a peculiar way of evading the limelight. The Allied powers post-WWII were so busy dividing the world that holding Italy accountable was apparently too much paperwork. The result? A conspiracy of silence that let Italy evade blame for massive atrocities before and during World War II. Racism. Italy had that too. They implemented racist laws in 1938, mirroring Nazi anti-Semitic laws, because nothing says bella figura like copying Hitler's homework. Jews in Italy were stripped of rights, yet today Italy's collective memory often downplays this, highlighting how many Jews Italians saved rather than the fact that Italy willingly enacted racist policies. After the war, those laws were scrapped, and it was back to, we're all Italians, pass the pasta. The world, preoccupied with Nazi horrors, basically gave Italy a free don't do it again card without much follow-up. And let's not forget domestic scandals, from the mafia's stranglehold to decades of government corruption that would make Caesar's senators blush. Italy's post-war politics saw 51 changes of government in 50 years, Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi's escapades alone, bunga parties with underage girls, endless graft trials, yet even these modern misdeeds slide off Italy's reputation like olive oil on a Teflon pan. The mafia is international pop culture iconography, thank you, The Godfather, and the country marches on with its image as a passionate, chaotic, but ultimately lovable rogue state. It seems no matter what chaos Italy causes, colonial massacres, political meltdowns, financial scandals, the world looks at that boot-shaped nation and says, they've been through a lot, Have some wine. Other countries get sanctions and harsh judgments. Italy gets a Netflix series about its scandalous pope, or a glam movie about Gucci. Historical amnesia, perhaps? Or maybe everyone's just too busy eating cannoli to hold a grudge. At this point, one has to ask, why does Italy get away with it? What black magic or Jedi mind trick is at work that allows an empire with so much blood on its hands to be globally adored? The answer, dear reader, is a blend of pizza, the Pope, and Prada. Italy has mastered the art of cultural distraction. They gave the world pizza, arguably the most effective apology gift in history. You can't condemn a country while reaching for your third slice of quattro formaggi, it turns out. They gave us pasta carbonara, has a way of silencing moral outrage with creamy goodness. Their fashion is top-notch. Even their dictators knew how to dress. Mussolini's jawline and uniform could have walked the Milan runway. They have art and architecture that take your breath away. Michelangelo's David doesn't exactly remind tourists that Italy once aligned with the Third Reich. And of course there's the Pope, a living symbol of peace and reconciliation residing in Rome. With the Vatican lending an aura of sanctity, Italy gets to borrow some holiness for its image. Pop culture has also done Italy a solid. We romanticize Under the Tuscan Sun and forget Under Italian occupation. Hollywood makes endless WWII films where the bad guys speak German, while the Italians in WWII flicks are either endearing side switchers or absent altogether. Memes portray Italians as lovable gesticulators, obsessed with good food and fast cars. The global psyche seems convinced that Italians are too busy singing opera, wooing lovers on gondolas, or arguing about football to commit real atrocities. When was the last time you saw a viral meme about Italian war crimes? Exactly. It's as if Italy hacked humanity's forgiveness mechanism. Be charming. Centuries of PR, from ancient Rome's awe-inspiring monuments to Renaissance high culture, from the Catholic Church's pageantry to modern Italy's tourist-friendly branding, have paid off. We don't see an evil empire. We see a picturesque peninsula of passion and pleasure. Germany had to confront its demons head-on and still wears the scars of guilt. Italy twirled its moustache, served tortellini, and the world collectively said buon appetito and moved on. In the grand courtroom of history, Italy often seems to walk away whistling, hands clean, while others take the fall. It turns out you can get away with a lot if you invent enough beautiful things to seduce the world. Maybe the lesson here is darkly comical. If you're going to do terrible stuff, do it stylishly. The Romans built jaw-dropping monuments to mask their massacres. The church draped itself in incense and gold to gloss over its sins. Mussolini tapped into Rome's grandeur and was lucky to have a partner in crime who was even worse. And modern Italy? It just shrugs, says Andra tutto bene, and invites you over for dinner. Sarcasm aside, it's not that Italy truly escaped the consequences. History remembers, and Italians themselves have grappled with their past. But internationally, Italy's reputation is like Teflon. The combination of cultural soft power and a convenient historical narrative means Italy often gets a forgiveness others only dream of. Why call out Italy's bloody history when you can travel to Tuscany and post sunset pics? Why harp on war crimes when you're busy thanking Italy for Ferrari and Ferragamo? The world's love affair with Italy, its food, fashion, faith and flair, has effectively laundered a laundry list of sins. So, here's to Italy, the charming devil that made us forget to stay angry. They say all roads lead to Rome. Perhaps they do, and those roads are paved with humanity's selective memory, laid by Romans, blessed by popes, and repaved by Prada. Next time you twirl your pasta, spare a thought for the ironic truth that in the grand scheme Italy got away with murder literally, and we're all too busy yelling bellissimo to mind. Now pass the vino, because if we've learned anything, it's that a good Chianti pairs well with historical amnesia and a hearty helping of sarcasm. Salute.